center. Benson, it's caught by McClain, and the Reds win it.
Back to No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler. Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, and Google, Monday through Friday.
A really nice catch by McClain to end the game. And I'm not going to go gaga, but Burns was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Good afternoon. I'm Alan Cutler. Honored and pleased to be with you. Thanks for joining me. Rodney Stiles sent me a text. Used to work UK, says he's a new listener. Great to have you, Rodney. And we're going big today. I'll get into the Reds in a second. Kenny Rice, Brandon Ramsey, Big Gene Andrews, Big Tom Heights. So we got one of the great UK centers, a backup center, a smart coach formerly who analyzes basketball tremendously, and Kenny Rice is just great at everything. So we are lined up, raring to go. I am fired up. Look, 4 games. We're not going crazy. We're not saying the Reds are winning the World Series or anything like that. There's a couple little trends that you hope will continue. Burns was unbelievable. He's unhittable. 5 innings, 1 hit, walked 3, struck out 7, 78 pitches, and I love that Tito got him out of the game. 78 pitches, that's enough for him. And then they put in a kid named Franco. I'd never seen his body before. He's a big man, and he's a young guy, and they're grooming him, obviously, and they were short on their bullpen because a lot of guys have already pitched, and there were 3 guys that they couldn't pitch at all. You know, it's the old wear your sneakers in the bullpen because you're not going to wear your cleats. And so this kid, Franco, did a good job. He threw 35 pitches in an inning and 2/3 and gave up 3 hits. And then Ashcraft, I've always been a big fan of, handled the 8th inning, and Phillips the 9th inning. Now, here's what's important about Phillips. It's his first save. He had to be nervous as hell. He had to save because other guys weren't available. And I said this when he started coming up. Stick him in the bullpen because they have too many potential starters. He didn't look like a really good starter. And maybe the Reds are doing something that I've been screaming about forever. Take a guy who's a starter. If he can't make your starting 5, stick his fanny in the bullpen. Because if you're throwing 93, 94, you might be throwing 95, 96, 97, maybe out of the pen. And it's a shorter situation. And I really like Phillips. I'm not saying he's going to be the closer this year. He's not. But they might have found another guy in the bullpen. They might have found. And I like that they put him in the bullpen. And they've got too many starters when everybody gets healthy. Instead of sending too many of these guys down, and you have to have guys ready and stretched out and stuff like that, put maybe another one of these guys in the bullpen, which could make your bullpen much better. I'm excited about the Reds. I am. And I could watch it. I'm a little disappointed. I got the MLB package for free with T-Mobile. I'm not doing a T-Mobile commercial. I've had it for years. And supposedly you could watch the Reds. So they have all these games lined up, Jimmy. Phillies game, this game, that game, the other game, whatever. But it's still considered in market. So, Jimmy, I hit it the other day to watch the Reds. Hey, for $59.99 more, you too can watch your in. And I'm going, no, I'm just not going to pay for it. Now, it'll be interesting when the Reds are on the road if you could watch it because you've never been able to. I thought that sucked because the promotion said you can watch all the games all the time, and it's just not true. I'm not ripping it. I get it for free. I'm kind of mad at MLB. I don't think they get it when it comes to promotion, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. To the ladies. Holy mackerel. Emmeline McDonald. So in the McDonald's, in the All-Star game last night, she wins the 3-point contest against the girls. And then, I thought this was smart, by the way. They're finally doing more of these things. Hey, girls can shoot. Why can't they shoot against the boys, right? So she went against the boys. She won that too. She went against the boys champion. Holy mackerel. And she's coming here next year. Now, this is a very small snippet. And I've seen some other bites before with all 3 of these young women who are coming to Kentucky. And they're all All-Americans, McDonald's All-Americans. You know, it's going to be fascinating to see how many freshmen start next year. It's going to be fascinating. And all 3 have to get a lot of minutes to keep them. I'm going to guess they're going to be freshmen starting. 3, I have no idea. The point is this. Emily McDonald, Madden Greenway, whose dad was a studly NFL football player. Mom was a heck of an athlete, too, and she was a great soccer player as well. And Sabby Swords are all coming to play for Kentucky. I think most of you know that. So they had him on the podium. And they all talked about, Kentucky and what they want to do. Jimmy, see if you're as impressed as I am. They sound so mature. So many of these athletes go through so much at an early age. And the women are now doing it just like the guys, that they've been on camera. They've had a lot of tension on them. They grow up quicker. And I just like how all three handle themselves. It's not long, but they're talking about, hey, we can't wait to come to Kentucky.
I just think that we all bring in something that like really no other class in the country have. I think we all complement each other really well. Madden, she can not only score the ball, but she can also like facilitate really well. Savvy's like one of the hardest workers I know, and I think that with Coach Brooks' system, we all like fit really well.
Yeah, kind of to build off, we all have amazing work ethic, so we're not really selfish players. Kind of whatever the team needs, we're gonna do that, and just there's still amazing pieces that are staying. Clara, Asia, and just adding to that, I feel like we're gonna have a great squad.
Yeah, I think obviously they lost some great players that led to a lot of success, but I think we bring in some youth and excitement, and we're ready to build and continue to grow women's basketball at Kentucky. And I think we've replaced some key components that they lost. Me at the guard, we can come in and just, make an impact right away, and I think we're really excited.
Jimmy, I can't believe you won't agree with me. These three young women don't sound like high school seniors, do they?
No. If you, just someone listening, if they didn't hear the beginning of that, and we said those were WNBA players after a game, you would think, oh, yeah, that's what it sounds like. That's insane that they're 17 years old, still in high school, with that kind of just media presence.
Or let's say they're playing in the Final Four, right? And they're on the podium. You'd say, oh, this person has done a lot of media. Oh, this person is mature. And I got more excited for Kentucky women's basketball next year. Well, I got more excited when I saw that Emily McDonald beat all the girls and then beat the best guy. I mean, that's exciting in itself. But I got more excited listening to these three young women. I mean, like, wow. So good for Kenny Brooks. Good for these ladies. They play tonight. Is it on at 7 o'clock, 6:30? I can't remember. We need to look it up. I got to do a quick tease, Jimmy, as you're helping me out. I should have looked it up. Tommy Heights is one of the guests today. And Tommy is very thoughtful, and I say this with a compliment, in kind of left field with his thoughts, and I appreciate it, and I actually respect it. He said, I'll talk about any topic next Tuesday. He sent this last week when I said, hey, can you join us today? But I'm on the mindset that I defend Coach Pope, and I'll explain why. Okay, looking forward to it. And then I am not going to read what he said about the WNBA, Jimmy. I want to see if he says it. I'm not saying it. And I'm as a girls' game is at 7 o'clock, Jimmy. Thank you, sir. And boys are at 9 o'clock on ESPN, right?
Correct.
Okay. I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch it live, but I'm going to tape it. I'm more excited watching the girls than the guys. How many guys are playing for Kentucky next year? Yeah. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? Anyway, he's got some very strong thoughts about the WNBA that is crazy. And he's been like this for a long time. I don't know how far he's going to go. I'm not going to push him, but we will see. It is powerful. It's a little tidbit before I get into the other stuff. This is so Joel Mazzulla. And I give Brad Stevens credit. I don't think there are three teams in the NBA that would have hired him as a head coach, because I say this with kindness, he's a different thinker. Tommy Heights is a different thinker. That's better than saying somebody's in left field. And if anybody took that as a negative thing, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. Joel Mazzulla is a very kind, caring, thoughtful man, and he puts basketball in its proper perspective, and he cares. He cares about, every coach cares about the players, but there's different levels. He cares about them as people as much as anybody in the NBA. Jimmy, I love this. A reporter asked him, hey, what about winning the Coach of the Year award? What would it mean to you? This is the best quote I've seen this month. Quote, I think it's a stupid award. They shouldn't have it. It's more about the players. It's more about the work that the staff puts in. It's that simple. And I don't ever want to be asked or talk about it again. Have you seen a better quote this month?
That's the most Joe Mazzulla sounding quote that I've ever heard.
Yeah. But he's like this all the time. You know, he dresses down more than any other coach in the NBA. And what I liked about it, when he was a rookie coach, he was really dressing down. I'm going, this dude don't care. He's comfortable in his own skin. And Brad Stevens is really, 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 really smart. If there are 3 smarter guys in the NBA, let me know who they are. Maybe you could find 4. Right now, and I've said this for years, I can't find one. And I love the OKC general manager for obvious reasons. The guy in Detroit's really good. But Stevens has rebuilt that Celtic team while he was ordered and instructed to dump a lot of money. It's not an easy thing to do, and he did it. And it's interesting how he's rebuilt it. So I don't want to ever be asked or talked about it again. So it was on Twitter, and so, you know, some of the comments underneath some of these things are just, they're just jerks. And I couldn't tell if this one was funny. Said, hey, ask him again. Ask him again. Okay. I got to tell you, do you think I was ever shy asking questions?
No.
I don't think I'd ask him. Out of respect. Because I think if you ask him, then you're doing it on purpose to incite. And I never did that. Never, ever, ever. I know there are some people think I did. It's BS. I wasn't afraid to ask a question. Jerry Tipton wasn't afraid to ask a question. Jerry will join us again on Friday, which I appreciated. But no, that's BS. I think if a person asks that question, they have to know either 2 things. One, they're ignorant. They don't know what he said, which means you're not covering the team. You don't know what the hell's going on, and you haven't done your homework. Or 2, you're doing it just to tick them off. And I think that's wrong. Sometimes the media is wrong. Amazing. Sometimes the media is wrong. I want to talk about Mo Williams. Jack Perlman broke the story. I gave him credit yesterday. There was about a minute or 2, Jimmy, something like that, left in the show. And I said this when Mo Williams came as the head coach at Jackson State, and he got thumped by Kentucky. And I've seen some things on why do I comment on Twitter that are so stupid? Well, you hire him as a coach. Look at his record as a head coach. Oh, my gosh. He's probably got 0 budget, slight exaggeration. Winning in that league is close to impossible. Okay? I think it's a great hire. So this is a kid, when he played, was overlooked. Shows up to the SEC. He's a freshman of the year. If there's a human being that thought he was going to be the freshman of the year, you're lying. You're lying. You're a liar. I watched him one time at Alabama. I've watched him here. He's not very big, not very strong, not very thick. Played for a bunch of teams. He was an all-star. And he was one of those guys you really had to watch carefully to see all the little things he did. He is slick and can shoot and can put the ball in the hole. Guys like that normally end up being really good coaches because when you look at them, well, the first time you look at Alabama, you're going to say, hey, this guy's going to be an all-star in the NBA. What are you, freaking nuts? And so he had to be smarter to get as far as he's gone. So his son is coming, which I still really like, because if he's learned his lessons from his dad, he's going to be a good player. Okay? I'm not suggesting he's starting next year or anything like that. I don't have a clue. This looks like a deal for multiple years, which you have to have on the team. And then I saw somebody put up, well, you know, you shouldn't recruit this guy. We need a star. Shut up. You need both. And when you can get a guy like this and wrap it up, Mo's son, Mason, I think it's really smart. Some of the criticism of Pope is just stupid. It really is. It's just stupid. So I think it's a wonderful hire. I'm expecting that he will be a point guard whisperer. Plus, you know, he's not that far gone from the NBA. I'm going to guess he can probably really relate to young people really good. And you can't have enough of those people on Pope's staff or any staff. So I love it. I absolutely love it. Some of the criticism is crazy. I'm going to try to get him on next week. Mazel tov to Mike Stone. He's the new boys basketball coach at LCA. My understanding, Brian Lane is a huge fan of him, and he was at Transy as an assistant coach. Young guy, really young. From what I've heard about him away from doing this show, it's kind of like, oh, you had the guts to hire a guy who hasn't been a head coach, who's done wonderful things at Transy, and is supposed to be a very wonderful person. You got to get your chance sometime, right? You got to get your chance sometime. Jimmy, did you see this about the DC Original? Norlanger, who does a really good job for CBS, put this up. So, you know the scores: Duke 80-75 over St. John's, UConn, Michigan 67-63, UConn, Duke 73-72. This is what he said. It's the only regional, and I did not know this, to ever have 3 games decided by 5 points or less, and including a game-winning shot in the last second. That's impressive. That's really, really impressive. Another tidbit in left field, because I have predicted this, and I don't know how big of a trend it's going to be, but I think you're going to see more and more of it. If there's anybody out there who's ever heard of Mike McDonald, God bless you, I never did. And not feeling bad, I never did. He coaches at a school called Damien. He's won over 500 games in college, 61-3 the last 2 years, and he's the only coach in college basketball history to win more than 100 games in Division I, Division II, and Division III. And it's about damn time some of these coaches on lower levels get chances. So he's coached at Olean High. He's a St. Bonnie guy. I have heard the previous coach, Schmidt, who was there for a long time, they were happy that he retired. I don't know if it's true they pushed him out, but he had a really good record. But here's what they're doing. St. Bonnie's doesn't have any money, and they're towards the bottom of the A10 with NIL. So they're paying this guy a little more than half of what Schmidt was making, and they're putting the extra money in NIL. And I think this is going to be a trend. You're going to see the haves and the have-nots. So you're going to see the big schools like North Carolina's going to probably have to pay a lot more than they're paying Hubert Davis. The big schools are going to do it. The smaller schools, I can see more doing like this. In other words, hey, can you live on $500,000 instead of $1.2 million or something like that? And I think you're going to see it more and more. And I don't know what the numbers are with this. Schmidt made more than $1 million. That's not the point. But they need to get money for NIL. Otherwise, it doesn't matter who the hell the coach is. You're not going to have a shot at winning. It's just the way it is. So, Jimmy, I'm going to watch and see if this is more of a trend. I see it happening more and more. You take a guy from Division 1, 2, and 3, he's making nothing. You give him a hell of a raise, or her a hell of a raise, right? And that's beautiful. Great raise, but it's not what the previous person was making. And I could be wrong. I think they're going to have to do this as desperation.
Yeah, and I don't think it shouldn't always be the next person that comes in either makes the same or more. And I think it is going to end up being a trend. All it takes is a couple schools to do it, and that's just kind of becomes the thing. And I feel like it could go into other sports, other teams, other leagues, like same sort of deal. Just because the next one is the one that's up to be signed, that doesn't mean you have to be more than the previous coach.
And I think that trend is going to stop unless you're one of the big coaches. I think there's going to be more of a caste system. There's no caste system at Quantrell. At Quantrell, they love to say driving should feel personal, protected, centered, completely at ease the moment you pull onto the road. That's a Volvo difference. Thoughtful design, quiet confidence, and safety always. So you can simply breathe and drive. Plus, the luxury of Volvo is often more within reach, and that happened to us. It was more within our reach than I expected. That's the truth. Than expected. That's firsthand. That's why Volvo deserves your first look. We have the VC60. I say it all the time. We're saving money in the hybrid. It's the best car we've had in 43 years. We've gotten 3 cars, 3 vehicles from Quantrill now. They've been great to us. at Quantrill Volvo. Brentley and Mark, friends of mine, they've built a dealership that's calm, respectful, and genuinely helpful. Right now, get 0.99%, 0.99%, 0.99% APR for 36 months on most 2026 models. See dealer for details. Visit QuantrillVolvo.com. Don't forget about their wonderful Subarus. Don't forget about their wonderful Cadillacs. Visit QuantrillVolvo.com. Kenny Rice is on deck. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5 FM.
No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler, brought to you by Quantrill Auto Group. QuantrillForLife.com.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler. Have a no filter comment? Hit the text line, 859-381-1313. 859-381-1313.
Hi, this is Patrick DiGiacomo, and this is why I would recommend Republic Bank. So, when the bank manager brought me over just to show me how their ITM works, he hit this button where an actual live person came on the screen, and she was so kind and helpful, and it just made me feel like, wow, I'm not dealing with just a machine, I'm dealing with somebody that's actually paying attention to what I'm doing, and it made me feel really good.
And that's how Republic Bank helps their customers go from living to thriving. Learn more at republicbank.com. Member FDIC.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler. Driving should feel personal, protected, centered, completely at ease the moment you pull onto the road. That's the Volvo difference. Thoughtful design, quiet confidence, and safety always working in the background so you can simply breathe and drive. We love our VC60. Plus, the luxury of Volvo is often more within reach than expected. That's why Volvo deserves your first look. At Quantrill Volvo, Brentley and Mark, friends of mine, they have built a dealership that's calm, respectful, and genuinely helpful. Right now, get 0.99%. That's 0.99% APR for 36 months on most 2026 models. See dealer for details. Visit QuantrillVolvo.com today.
Back to No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler. Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, and Google, Monday through Friday.
Look at this. Kenny Rice has fixed his hair. Did you put makeup on for the YouTube?
No, I'm just looking glowing today, Alan.
You sound
glowing.
You sound really hollow.
Well, I get that a lot.
Really?
That's better?
A little bit.
Shout?
Great. Jimmy, are we good?
Jimmy, are you good with this?
I don't think it sounds bad. It is a little hollow, but it doesn't sound really bad.
Okay, we move on. Your take of the University of Kentucky basketball team this season, and what grade would NBC's Kenny Rice, for over a quarter century, he was young when he started, former sports director at WTVQ, a man who does a gazillion sports play-by-play, a gazillion Olympics, all kinds of beautiful stuff. What grade does Rice give Pope? What grade does Rice give Pope?
C-. I think that's a generous one. The program, look at it this way. Yeah, I know they're getting on Shire at Duke. I understand. Obviously, with what happened in the last few minutes of that game and, of course, the last seconds of that game. But the fact is, Duke's still up there. They're still in the hunt. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's still in the hunt of the major programs. Look at Arizona. They've improved. And the whole point of this, Alan, is what's Kentucky supposed to be? They're supposed to be a top 10, top 15 program. They're supposed to always be in the hunt. They pulled one out against Santa Clara, else they wouldn't have made it past the first game this year. I know there were injuries. I thought the excuse of injuries kind of wore down because you're supposed to prepare for that. You're not supposed to just have one point guard. You're supposed to be able to put your team together so when there is an issue, you're able to address it and bring in somebody else. And I didn't think he had things backed up like he could have, should have. And yeah, you have to give him credit that they overcame a lot because of the injuries, but you can only use that excuse so long. Other teams had injuries and had setbacks and all this adversity people talk about. So for the most part, again, I think Mark's a good coach. I think he's still a little bit over his head in terms of bringing the team together. And I think he still relies on the analytics too much instead of gut feeling sometimes. And I think that shows. So, yeah, I think C+ is a pretty fair grade to give. They didn't accomplish what they were supposed to. And, even like Quintus, why take a chance on these people that have major injuries and are trying to rehabilitate in less than a year? Things like that. That's their job, is to scout this out, to vet this out, and figure, do I want to risk this? Do I want to risk that? Do I want to go out and try to get some high school players? Do I want to find the next Braylon Mullins? That is their job to try to do that.
Mullins was probably coming here, by the way, until Jasper came.
Yeah, well, again, that's how you have to try to figure out things. Who do you want? You have to make those decisions. You've got to be a manager of personnel as well as an X and O's guy. And that's what all the good coaches are doing right now. And that's not what he's doing, to the extent that I think Kentucky wants. Because, at this time of the year, you tell me at this time of the year, when Kentucky's fan base is more excited about Duke losing, and we're cheering for a coach that they used to hate, who now is at St. John's, when that's the biggest things they have going for them in March, the program's on that slippery slope of moving toward Indiana and Syracuse.
Gee, Kenny, you're making me sad.
Well, that's why I'm here, Alan.
You're doing a good job. They took Jasper. I would have taken Jasper in 2 seconds because you don't know how it's going to work out. Local kid. I still love Jasper's potential. It's amazing. I wonder how many people have hit you with this. So many people have hit me that Jasper is just not a good basketball player and he's never going to be good. And what ticks me off is that people grow. He never got to play. I'm not making excuses for him, but as you know, you've seen this a million times in your career. Certain players can play through mistakes. He wasn't allowed to. I think for a calm kid, it got him a little uptight. You got to play through it. I understand it didn't work, but look at all the guys that have left here. When Hopkins left here, I keep on using, for example, not a single person at Rupp Arena saw him in his last game, thought he might be an NBA player. He's going to play in pro ball forever. He had 6 threes. He's come back from 2 ripped knees. He's not an All-American, but he's a really, really, really good college player who's going to play somewhere in the world. Nobody inside Lexington, Kentucky at Rupp Arena in his last game thought he would do that. People grow. You've seen it. They change. Jasper's potential is unbelievable. Now, I understand. I got one more for you, and then I'm going to hit the mics to shut me off so you can talk, Kenny.
No, man, I'm listening.
They do want him back. They've asked him to come back.
I hope he does.
I don't think it's a shot in hell he comes back unless he knows that he can get minutes, because that family believes that they were promised 15 to 20 minutes a game. Now, you can say, why are you promising that? Because that's the way of the world today. You don't like it? Too bad. Adolph Rupp didn't promise minutes to anybody. The only minutes he promised was the manager make sure that you'll have a lot of towels to get. It was a different game. And if you believe you were promised something, then you don't get it, you're ticked off, and you're going to defend your kid. They're not very happy. And if you don't get what you thought you were going to get, for some this will be too strong, trust is a problem. I promised you something. You didn't get it. I'm the coach. I can put in anybody win in yes or no, but you promised something, and therefore, guess what? Well, now I don't trust you. So if Jasper comes back, Kenny, we should both shave our heads.
Well, I'm not going to ever shave my head, Alan, unless it's for a movie role.
I didn't think you'd go, but
no, you know what? Listen, I want to clear something up. Jasper Johnson was not any problem this year for the team. And I think any criticism directed towards an individual player would be unjust and unfair, be it Jasper or anyone else. I think it was the way everything was brought together and the way the team overall was handled. I think that was more of an issue than an individual player. So, and I am a little biased because I've known the Johnson family, dealing with his grandfather and his father and his uncle, for good gracious, ever since I've been in town. So no, I think it was good to get Jasper Johnson. I never suggested they get anybody else in place of him. I'm just saying that there's, you got to look and see, what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to look down the road? Do you have a mix of guys that you want out there? Do you want to take a look and see who fits better? See, it kind of gets back to, like with Calipari. I've had some people tell me that, you always not, I never think not Calipari in terms of being a good coach and a tremendous recruiter. I just thought the one and done was too much sometimes. I thought he needed role players. I think that Pope maybe needed a little more role players on this team this year. and maybe look for recruiting in that way and spread that money out a little better. Be more like a pro general manager. All of us don't make the same money. And I think that's one of the things that they missed on this year at UK.
If I would have told you 30 years ago that there was a possibility, now I'm not predicting this at all because there's nothing to predict, but it's out there, okay? If Billy Donovan would leave the Chicago Bulls and go to North Carolina, I would bet a soda pop, I don't drink soda, a coffee anywhere that John Pelfrey will be an assistant coach for Billy, unless he is walking away from basketball because he's staying with his wife, who's battling back from cancer and saying prayers and stuff like that.
Sure.
So if in the 90s, if I would have told you that someday I have this crystal ball that John Pelfrey might be an assistant in UNC. And again, anybody listen, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it's not as far-fetched as it's ain't 100 to 1 shot. It's not 5 to 2 in the morning line either. Somewhere in there. What would you have said? Kid from Paintsville, kid who saved his quarters, going to the Sweet 16 with his family as a child so he can play video games. Kids who always dreamed about playing here. Kid who didn't even know he was good enough to play here. Kid was a high school star and a star at Kentucky. What would you have said?
I would have said no. I said that would be hard to believe. But now, as years go on and people realize how much of a business this is, you can go Cats and go Big Blue and all that stuff. But the bottom line is, it is a business. And have you noticed, no one else was picking John up when he got a little down after the Arkansas job. Billy picked him up. UK didn't bring him back in. UK doesn't owe any. UK, that's the UK way. They don't really owe any of their former players anything. That's their approach until, of course, with Pope. But they don't bring these guys in on a regular basis. And so first off, I hope everything works out with Tracy. That's the most important thing, John's wife. And John he will be on Donovan's staff if Billy takes that job. I'll be really curious if Billy takes the job at North Carolina. That pro is a real grind. After so long, you're always on the road, always out of a suitcase. And, North Carolina would be, I think, a good fit. If Billy Donovan decides to get back into coaching in college, that would be the best fit, because he was never, ever going to come back here. I don't care what anybody says. He was not going to come back here because his mentor, the man he loves, probably second only to his late precious father, is Rick Pitino. And he was not going to come back into a situation where he was going to be compared to those glory days of the 90s with Rick. So this works out best for him if he goes to North Carolina, which, by the way, is a program that you notice they don't waste a lot of time. Now, they've gone through some coaching changes since the great Dean Smith, and Roy Williams still got in there, but they're not going to waste time. They're not going to give you more than like 3-4 years. And I think that's going to be the situation coming up in Kentucky as well. Maybe a couple more years and things has to get better in terms of getting back into a top program. And that's just the way it is. There's too much money out there right now. And it is a business. It's the Godfather. It's never personal. It's always the business.
Can you believe you and I are going to strongly disagree? I don't think
so unusual, but go ahead.
Only when we speak. I don't think Billy either coming back or not coming back, or if he was ever at whatever. I don't think it has anything to do with Rick Pitino, and I don't think it has anything to do with the comparison. Maybe you have more information. Maybe your feel is different from mine. Disagreement is all good. It's all good. Do you have some inside information? Or is that your feel?
No, it's kind of a little of both. It's a little feel, but a couple of people I know that know the situation a little bit always felt that way, because he would always be compared to Rick. That's the way it is going to be. They say, when Rick was here, you guys were always in the Final Four, making runs to the Final Four at least. Wow, you got beat out in the first weekend. You're no Rick. You're no Rick Pitino. And I think that's only natural. That would be anybody that follows anyone. Is going to be anybody that has a lot of success and they're kind of a mentor. The person that they're mentoring follows them. They're always going to be compared to them. And sometimes that's not fair, but that's always the case. Not that they are blood related, but you look at their blood relations like Joey Myers following his dad into Paul. Did not work. Sean Sutton following Eddie in Stillwater at Oklahoma State. Did not work. There's several other examples of that. It's very tough to come in and, like they always say, you don't want to follow. That's why I always respected Joe Hall so much. Nobody else has been able to follow a legend directly and have success. Usually they skip a generation, if you will. Joe Hall should be in the Hall of Fame based on the fact that he kept Kentucky's program viable and won a national championship just years after taking over for a legend.
I think he's not in because he won 297 and retired early. The last thing I'll disagree, and we'll move on. Had Billy showed up shortly after Rick, I couldn't agree with you more, but this is like 1,000 years later. Plus, he's got not one but 2 rings. And as you know, and everybody knows, the game is just totally different. You can't stockpile talent and all that kind of stuff. It's good. It's healthy that we disagree.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's why sports is so beautiful. You don't everybody no one should get actually angry enough to lose friendships over, like politics and some things that people do. But yeah, and I'll tell you something else. I talked to a guy yesterday that actually is pretty inside on this stuff, and he says Pitino was offered the job before Pope, and Mitch Barnhart didn't want even to consider Pitino. And this is from a source that I would trust. That's not my job anymore.
I got
but this was a casual conversation, talking just about how the tournament was going. And I've had the worst bracket I think I've ever had. Arizona, I believe, is the only team I still got in there. I had Duke winning it. But we were just kind of kidding around talking. And so he just kind of brought it up. He said, what do you think? Guy like you asked me, what about this past season? I said, look, it's about a C-. It was not a top 10 season like it was supposed to be. That's a big drop to not even to drop down to a 7th seed after being a top 10 prediction. And he said, yeah, Rick was offered, said a prominent booster approached Mitch about getting in touch with Pitino, that Pitino said he would come if offered. And that was all I know. That's what he said. There, I like to just stir it up. There, we can throw it out there. I trust this guy's opinion, and I think it is plausible. I will say that.
Okay, you said it differently the second way than the first way.
Well, I said it the same way, didn't I? I mean,
it was different. So can I explain? So that honestly, I think you said it a little differently the second way.
Okay.
Somebody called Mitch on behalf of Pitino.
No, they called. Well, they'd already talked to Rick.
Yes,
but they weren't like an agent of Rick. Okay, so they're not.
Now we're on the same page. Okay, yeah. Let me put. This is what I've said on the air a number of times. Pitino wanted the job. He never called Mitch. A friend of his. When I'm going like this, unless you're watching the 3 people on YouTube, I'm doing money.
Yeah.
Called Mitch, and then Mitch said, "I'm not even going to talk to him."
Said there's too much baggage.
Yes. So we have the same story. I don't think. Well, I'm not going to belabor that. That's not the first thing I heard you say. Yeah, I've said this on the air many times a long time ago. By the way.
Yeah, I know. I'm not breaking anything. I'm just saying that.
No, it's not. I got it. You don't, or whatever. But I appreciate. Let me tell you what I appreciate. I appreciate in your own way, because as much as we get together, we've never talked about this, and I appreciate the fact that you got the same story in a different way. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
amazing. I don't wake up every day and wonder about UK basketball, and I'm glad I don't have to anymore.
What?
I really am. It's. I think right now. Listen, I've got friends that get mad when I try to discuss this with them, so. I don't want to upset anybody over UK basketball, but the fact is, when you look at Connecticut, maybe inching even closer to getting those 8 wins that Kentucky has. Not yet, but they're getting closer. At this rate, they're going to get there before UK adds another one, it would appear. You start looking at all the things that's happened, even in the SEC. Would you say Kentucky's the top 3 or 4 team in the SEC right now? I wouldn't. Program.
No.
So everybody's still kind of clinging, as they should. It's nice, the rich history and all the wins and the winningest program and things. But in the last 10 years, no Final Four, not even a glimpse of getting there. It's a program that is on the downslide. And honestly, when we talked about Mitch Barnhart before, and you asked me, I said the football team's still mediocre at best in the SEC, and the basketball team's gotten worse. And those are the 2 things I think are the main things that everybody's going to be judged on. That's an athletic director at a major program. And it's nice that all the minor sports are doing well. I really respect that. And I think it's great. It was great to see the women's program make it to the 16 in basketball. And I love the volleyball team, big fan of theirs, and the rifle team. But as you know, football and basketball, that's the tail that wags the athletic dog.
Yeah, I'm not saying who's swagging what, but okay. I want to. This is weird. I will talk about Duke the way I would talk about Kentucky, believe it or not. And you get it because how we both are the same way. We both want Kentucky to win, but your analysis is your analysis. It's one of the things that I respect about you tremendously, that however you think, however you think. So
I could not host a Big Blue network. I couldn't.
I
would crack.
They didn't ask me either.
I would crack. And God bless everybody that can. Like I said, it's tough on all three of these guys, these anchors. I know all three of them in town that always have to lead with UK anymore. It's nuts, I think. But I've thought that for years because I never did lead with UK. If UK merited it, yeah. But in the middle of the week, I remember a sports information director asked me one time, UK said, how come you covered that Moorhead Eastern game and you did not have a soundbite with Joe Hall in your sportscast? I said, because Kentucky played 3 days ago. We've drained that. We squeezed that lemon to death. Move on. They'll play again this weekend. We'll be all over it. So that's my theory always, as you know that.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you about John Shire.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not throwing it all on the Boozer kid. He made a bad play. You can say you could have held on to the ball the 10 seconds. He should have known. He should have known. Maybe Shire should have screamed at him. There are some people said he was. I don't know if he did or didn't. It doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't make a difference. This is a very simple play that went bad. Had he thrown the ball up high, it would have been deflected.
Straight up. Yeah.
And nobody would have said a word. To me, it's almost disingenuous how Shire is getting ripped. Now, they've lost a couple of games where they had big leads. Well, okay, they weren't losing it to Oakland. They're losing it to schools like UConn and Houston that has another level of defensive intensity. That's why Houston and UConn are playing so late. It's not like somebody did this to them in the first round. And so I don't know. I think he's getting ripped like crazy, and I think it's literally disingenuous. The kid made a bad play. Okay, he just made a bad play. Had he thrown it up high, there's no shot, there's nothing. UConn's going home. Why are people such jerks? Or am I wrong? You tell me I'm being a jerk. I'm defending Shire, and I don't know him, and I don't give a crap if he coached at Duke or Kentucky. And I got to tell you, if he coached at Kentucky, Kenny, I'd say the same thing.
If he coached Kentucky, people here would be ripping him the same way. If Mark Pope had gotten this team within 10 seconds of beating UConn to the Final Four, and some play like that had happened, then said, why didn't you call a timeout? Why weren't your players more aware of situations like this? Why didn't you tell the star of the team when he got the ball on the inbounds to hold it? They would be all over anybody. They'd be over Hurley had it been the opposite. If he had Duke on the ropes like that and then they blew it in the last 10 seconds. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. And people can say, well, that's unfair. That's over criticizing, whatever. But they make a lot of money. And people have to fill the airways with something on talk shows and newspaper articles or online articles now. And it always comes down to, what could the coach have done? Herb Sendek should have called a timeout after the made basket with Santa Clara. I mean, immediately. He should have been on that immediately, and he didn't. Probably at Santa Clara, they're not ripping him like they are Shire at Duke because of the programs. If Herb Sendek had been at Duke, or he'd been at North Carolina and lost to VCU in the opening game. Again, it's like everything else. The more you move up the ladder, the more money you make, the more pressure you get, though, and the more spotlight that's on you. So, yeah, when you coach at Duke, you coach at UConn, being Tommy Lloyd out in Arizona. Let's see how he does in the next couple of years. He'll be feeling some pressure. May up in Michigan will be feeling pressure. Probably all of them already are going in there now. Can they win it? And that just comes with it, and I think that everybody embraces it. All the good coaches embrace it. They take the good and the bad. And yeah, I think the criticism of Shire is fair in this regard. He does seem to blow some big leads in big games. There's a big lead he blew to UConn the other day, and that he doesn't have his players aware. Duke supposedly is a school of high academics. They didn't look too smart on that those last 10 seconds.
No, they didn't. They don't look smart at all. I'm not saying he's the world's greatest coach. I'm just saying if the kid throws the ball up, nobody's talking about anything at all. Anything else about Kentucky that's in your cranium that you want to fire out, Kenny?
Well, I don't know.
I want to go away comment that you're just firing on all cylinders.
Well, I'd like to see them do a little better. I mean, all my friends are UK fans and I went to school there, and I'd like to see them play a little better than they did. But also, I tell you, it's time for a major dose. And I don't blame Pope entirely. I think a lot of it's on UK itself and Mitch and the whole thing. They brought him in last year. He was like the prodigal son. They brought him in, literally drove in the bus. All the team gets off. 20,000 people are there. Oh, he's back. He's our savior. He's never won an NCAA tournament game, but he did as a player. And that was 30 years ago. And thank you for coming back, because we really don't like Calipari. That's exactly what it was last year. Nobody took a look and said, what is the credentials? He's a pretty good coach now. I'm not ever saying he can't coach, and he still can coach. But as I said before, he's over his head at UK. There's a lot more involved than just being a coach. You got X's and O's, but you also have to push the analytics a little side, go with the gut sometimes. You've got to mesh guys together. You've got to say, okay, is this guy worth risking $2 million or 2.5, whatever they pay these guys these days? You got to be a money manager too. That's a lot to ask for a guy who is coming from BYU, which does not have near the pressure. Donnie and Marie sings at halftime. Everybody's excited. They don't have near the pressure that coming here to Kentucky has. And you can play here, you can hang around here, but until you sit on that bench, it gets awfully warm, as we've seen some really good coaches like Tubby Smith and Eddie Sutton, feel that heat. And even Joe B felt that heat. I think that's one reason he retired earlier than most people expected. It's a tough situation. I don't say, there's money out there. You make a pretty good money to take that heat. So that's okay. People call us names, and we don't make that kind of money.
Yeah. I mean, the names I've been called.
Yeah. You know what? We don't have to put ourselves out there, do we? We don't have to be on camera, but we do. And once you do that, people are going to criticize you. And if you can't take it, then you shouldn't be doing it. If you can't coach in the terms of, you can't coach because somebody criticized you. And watch the way he shakes hands after every time he loses. I don't expect him to embrace the coach and say, thank you for beating me. But it's always like flybys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You can tell he's really thin skinned on that. And I don't think that helps up here either. Look, it's tough. I'm not saying, hey, thank you for beating me, coach. But, hey, thank you. You're the best. But, sometimes you got to say, okay. Maybe next time. So you gotta have sportsmanship. I'm not always good at that. I haven't been good. I'm trying to be better at that. That's why I go to church all the time now. See, be better at that. Be better.
Wow. I can't respond to that. I can't top that. God bless you, Kenny.
You are better. I wouldn't mean to point at you or your audience. I didn't mean to point at them. Come on, Mark. It's okay, man. You lose a few games. The thing is, recruit better this offseason. Recruit guys that mesh better. They didn't mesh too well till later on. And if you don't do that and you don't stay in that top 10, because that's what they want, and John Shire's the same way. If Duke drops out of the top 10 next year, they'll really be remembering all these double-digit games he's blown. It's just the nature of the beast, and that's why we have sports talk shows.
Amen, brother. Kenny, in 10 seconds, I'm super, super late, but I appreciate you. You're the best.
Oh, yeah. What? Did you just freeze? I did not hear Jimmy. He froze up. What'd he say?
He was freezing right when he did this. It looked like he was just telling you touchdown.
No.
He was telling me that I'm his
favorite guest. You got a Derby winner.
Right now it's Commandment.
Okay.
Who just won the Florida Derby for Brad Cox. I will be at the Bluegrass Stakes this weekend, which you can watch live on Peacock. By the way, I'll be covering it for NBC, but we're on Peacock. Don't ask me a lot about streaming. I'm a mere foot soldier in this army. I show up, they give me a microphone, I talk. And if you're out there and can find Peacock, we'll be on live. Santa Anita Derby's on that day too on Peacock.
Text me where you're at, because I should be out there Saturday. Hey, brother, thank
I'll
you.
Be the paddock. Come by.
I think I can find the paddock.
Yeah. Always, my friend. Thank you.
Kenny Rice, he's great. It's really interesting that Kenny, in his own way, got the same story that I got, and it makes me feel even better. Not that I doubted what I said, but, Kenny's not grinding it like he used to grind, but Kenny has a bunch of friends. We're going to do this since we took a break early. I want to go straight to Brandon Ramsey. Can we do that?
Yeah, he's joining now, so it should be just a second.
Joining as we speak. He's there. Brandon Ramsey, KSR, former coach. Great analysis of basketball. How are you, brother?
I'm doing well, Alan. How's things going over there?
I'm fired up.
Let's go.
Beard is getting even longer. I'm going to tell you, when it gets down to the U in your UK shirt, Oh, that's going to be
Breaking news: it's getting trimmed tomorrow or Thursday.
man. You ruin your
So
image.
I know.
Your image. Um, is Pope going to recruit kids that'll make you happy? Because I'm saying you, not me, but you being the recruiting expert versus me. I'm not a recruiting expert. Don't play one on TV, whatever. But when this is all said and done, this is not a fair question. But Brandon, this is me. So, let's start off not being fair. Do you get a sense that this is going to be a good recruiting year?
I think it's going to have the opportunity to be so. I think, and this is it's a nuanced question and a nuanced answer, I think, but Coach Pope has not had any trouble recruiting and evaluating and targeting the right players that would get us excited, to use your words. Now, the issue at times has been closing on some of those guys. Like, we're going to be excited if you get Tyron Stokes. We're going to be excited about some of the names that are still certainly to enter the portal that doesn't even open for another week from today. There's going to be plenty of names out there, and Coach Pope and the staff, I think, have proven that they can identify that talent. They will be involved with some of that talent, and it'll just come down to, can you land the pieces necessary? Now, I think they're certainly saying the right things right now in terms of, really wanting to go after some big fish and land those 2 or 3 best players that we know we need to get to replace Otega Oweh, to replace Denzel Aberdeen and the like. But am I overly optimistic that it's going to be championship level? I would say, quite frankly, no, because it hasn't been the last 2 years. But do I think that it's certainly possible, because we're not all that far off of it? Absolutely. And I think when you have this sort of money, when you have the brand of Kentucky, when you have the opportunity to be involved with players on a regular basis like Kentucky does, then it sounds overly simplistic, but you only have to hit right on a couple of them, and all of a sudden you're where you need to be.
So I don't have the answer. Was Hart a good recruiter who brought it to the table and Pope couldn't close? Or was Hart not as good a recruiter as many thought he would be? Or is A and B not true at all?
I would probably say more so that A and B are true to some extent together, potentially. I think that, sometimes, recruiting is a very, fickle business at times, and sometimes things just get away from you a little bit, or they change course late, especially with money involved. So I think there were some times where maybe, Jason Hart wasn't able to get his teeth into guys as easily as maybe he thought he would be when he had the resources that Kentucky was going to put behind him. I also think that there might have been times where he was, you know, hamstrung, whether it be by, the ability to spend some money on some guys, or what, Coach Pope and the rest of the staff thought, or, other issues that go into recruiting at Kentucky, certainly at the closing table, as we've seen. So I think it's probably more so that both were true to some extent, as opposed to, maybe placing all of the blame on one player or the other.
Not being negative, it was time for him to leave for his sake and UK's sake, correct?
I think that's the case with, probably with Coach Alvin Brooks as well, and maybe anybody else that would exit town. I think that, there's a vocal minority probably still right now of fans that have had enough of Coach Pope even. I don't think it's time to make that move, but I think that, yeah, after 2 years, you need some shakeup when things haven't been to Kentucky standard. And if that means, trying your hand at a few different assistants, yeah, I think, it had run its course, and you need to, if you have these sort of resources, then at some point it becomes the people picking the players and not the players' fault. And I think that, yeah, it's time to try our hand at a couple of different people, trying to pick the players and get them to come to Kentucky.
When Mo Williams showed up to Alabama, and I watched him entire career, there wasn't a single human being on the face of the earth outside of maybe Mo dreaming and maybe his mother, who thought he would not only make the NBA, but be an NBA all-star, score as many points as he did. He's a guy that was too short, not thick, quick, but not overly quick, really smart, had a really good first step. And when I watched him the first time, it was kind of like oh, wow. He did a lot of little things that if you weren't watching him closely, like little fake moves, tiny fake moves while he's dribbling to freeze the defender and stuff like that. I thought for his size, I'm not saying he's a Hall of Fame player. I'm not blowing up to something he's not because he's coming to Kentucky. For his size, he was a great player. Now, I wouldn't say that if he was 6'5" and doing what he did. So there's two things. One, if he's taught his son and he started at an early age, I already like his son, and it's a package deal, so they must have a really good relationship. I'm not saying that this move with both of these is going to change the program, but I am saying his son looks like a terrific project for down the road. You're not handing him the keys to the car next year, and you got a guy that spent all the years in the NBA. He ain't that old, should be able to relate to recruits, could be a wonderful point guard whisperer. And the people that are complaining because his record stunk as a head coach don't know anything about college basketball because he had no money down there. That's a very difficult league to win. I think I'm not saying it's changed the program. I just think it's a wonderful move getting both of them. What say you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think anytime you can get somebody that was an NBA All-Star, that won an NBA championship, that has recruiting ties with some Nike athletes, having been a Nike athlete in the past, Mo Williams was with, he's a guy that's had an AAU program, certainly tied in, especially in the South. Like I said, the head coaching experience, and yeah, the record is what it is, but I think over the last 3 or 4 years, he had been over 500 in the SWAC. Now, that's a team that goes and, they're mercenaries in the non-conference schedule. So you can't really look at their overall record. He was 12-21 this year, but 10-8 in the league. So like the guy's winning games against like competition. He just goes and makes the Jackson State budget every year by playing 9 or 10 bye games. So I think that's a little overrated to look at that as well. But it was funny listening to you describe Mo Williams's game. A lot of those same words came to mind when I started watching more of his son, Mason Williams. His son is not explosive, but he makes really good decisions with the ball in his hands. He changes directions really fluidly. He plays with some pace. He is an excellent, excellent shooter. His most transferable skill, certainly early on in his career, is the fact that he is a 40% three-point shooter. He was used in ball screen situations as much as anybody on the EYBL Scholastic circuit, which is the highest level of high school basketball in the country. He rates very, very highly operating out of those ball screen situations according to the synergy data that exists for that level. So that there are some things to like about him. No, do I think that he's going to play much, if any, of a role right away? No, but I mean, Big Blue Nation has been clamoring for point guard depth for 2 seasons now because of the injuries that we've dealt with. And to me, he is the perfect piece to raise your floor of the point guard position. And he's a guy that hopefully can be around along with his father on staff for a few years. And I think if that happens, then he is going to be a more than serviceable piece at some point in his career at Kentucky. And then whatever, Coach Mill Williams can bring in terms of recruiting chops and all that and relating with the players, I think that's, certainly icing on the cake and what you need from the staff right now.
I'm really glad you used the word pace. That was the word I was searching for because that was Mo's game. He had he could be a defender, all that kind of stuff, and he can shoot. I think it's wonderful. Give yourself a wonderful plug. It's a short appearance today. Hopefully you'll squeeze out some time for me next week. Unless there's something else on your mind, Kentucky, that you want to shock the world.
No, we're all good. I look forward to the next opportunity to chat with you. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at BRamseyKSR. Obviously, the Final Four coming up. I'll be in Indianapolis all weekend, so be sure to follow along for some content from Indianapolis. Go subscribe to the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show YouTube channel, the Kentucky Sports Radio YouTube channel, and again, all that work gets promoted through my Twitter at BRamseyKSR.
It's the perfect opportunity now, this time of year, to check out what you and Zach Yagan do. It's really good. You guys are terrific. It's all good. See, you're going to get all kinds of rumors you can't say on the air. So you and I are going to be doing a little texting up and back with stuff that I can't use either. But I know you. You're going to get some, and maybe there's a few you'll be able to say, but most of the good stuff that you hear, you're not going to be able to say, correct?
So yeah, it's going to be a fun few days, certainly for some note taking and for some scoops. It's going to be a good time in Indianapolis.
Gossip. Who loves gossip, right?
That's right. Yeah, plenty of that going on over the next few days.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Yeah, anytime, Alan. Thank you.
Did you see a smile? The big smile. He's saying gossip. That was a big smile. One of my favorites is coming up next. Jim Andrews. one of the great UK basketball players. He's in a hopper, so we're going to take a break. 859-533-0914. Blue Lotus Health Acupuncture. I was there today with Ramon. He helped me tremendously. It's amazing. Low back, neck, shoulder, arm, hand pain, foot pain, sciatica, myopathy, metabolism issue, autoimmune, breech infertility, low energy, confusion, headache, dizziness, seizure, other things as well. Now also providing a licensed massage therapist. Ramon Carriega, please consider it. Please use my name. Close to the radio station, just off for Sales Road, 859-533-0914. Jim Andrews next. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5 FM.
No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler, brought to you by Quantrell Auto Group. QuantrellForLife.com.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler. Have a no filter comment? Hit the text line, 859-381-1313. 859-381-1313. Hi, this is Alan Cutler. Driving should feel personal, protected, centered, completely at ease the moment you pull onto the road. That's the Volvo difference. Thoughtful design, quiet confidence, and safety always working in the background so you can simply breathe and drive. We love our VC60. Plus, the luxury of Volvo is often more within reach than expected. That's why Volvo deserves your first look. At Quantrell Volvo, Brentley and Mark, friends of mine, they have built a dealership that's calm, respectful, and genuinely helpful. Right now, get 0.99%. That's 0.99% APR for 36 months on most 2026 models. See dealer for details. Visit QuantrellVolvo.com today.
Hi, this is Patrick DiGiacomo, and this is why I would recommend Republic Bank. So, when the bank manager brought me over just to show me how their ITM works, he hit this button where an actual live person came on the screen, and she was so kind and helpful, and it just made me feel like, wow, I'm not dealing with just a machine, I'm dealing with somebody that's actually paying attention to what I'm doing, and it made me feel really good.
And that's how Republic Bank helps their customers go from living to thriving. Learn more at republicbank.com. Member FDIC.
W223CV Lexington. ESPN Sports Radio 1392.5. WLXG Lexington. An LM Communications broadcasting station. The only no-filter sports show in Kentucky. It's the Alan Cutler Show with award-winning TV sportscaster Alan Cutler.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's the pride of Lima, Ohio. Back in the good old days, played at Kentucky from 70 to 73. As a junior, he only averaged 21.5 points and 11.3 rebounds. And then he just slipped tremendously as a senior. Only averaged 20.1 and 12.4 rebounds. Up a smidgen on the rebounds, down a smidgen on the points. One of the great UK players and centers, two-time first-team All-SEC, a man I consider a friend, Jim Andrews. Hello, Jim. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, Alan. How are you doing? Hey, by the way, you said Lima, Ohio. I just got a note today, and I know my wife is listening over in a parking lot somewhere, but I got a note today from my high school that I've been inducted into their Hall of Fame.
Mazel tov. What the hell took him so long?
Well, it's only been 55 years or 57 years. Oh.
It's the same thing. I wouldn't even thought about asking you that because I just assume you're in it. Just like when I found out you weren't in the Hall of Fame, I always assumed you were in the Hall of Fame forever. Did you average like 25? I don't know what you averaged in high school, but I bet it was more than 21 points.
Yeah, about 36.
Hold it. Hold it. I want, and you know, the world's nicest guy. I want an internal investigation. You averaged about 36 points a game in high school, and I'm sweating. I'm so ticked off for you. And they're just putting you in now?
They are.
And you'll be so kind and gracious to say thank you when you go up there, and you guys will have a lovely night.
We will. Absolutely.
And in that, you'll get to see, I would think, a lot of your former teammates. Some probably you're in contact, probably many you're not as time goes by. So that'll be going down memory lane.
I certainly hope so. And when this discussion came up some time ago, I said that our entire team should be inducted into the Hall of Fame. We were undefeated that year and just had an unbelievable team. 7 of the guys on that team got Division I scholarships.
Wow.
We were good. We
What?
were really, really good. Durham has said for years that in the state of Ohio, those years of between 1960, about 66 until 75 were the best years of basketball Ohio's ever had.
Wow. You know, that is like you being the team guy saying the whole team should be in.
Yeah, they should be. I mean, I can't do it. Somebody has to throw it to me.
Well, somebody has to be smart enough to throw it to you.
Oh, that's right.
I'm not talking about you, but how many times you've seen a big man hot and you're going, would you throw him the blank ball, right? That's never occurred in basketball, right?
Well, you remember there was a story years ago when Coach Rupp called a timeout, and it was when Issel and the rest of the team's playing, and these guys were taking shots, and he said, "Do you know who this is? this guy is an All-American. His name is Dan. Throw him the ball." So yeah, there's been, I'm sure, other stories similar to that you could.
And guessing what little I know about Rupp through the years, like I know nothing compared to you, but I know a few things. Probably it was stern, and probably nobody would disobey him.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. He had a way of taking something, and years later it turned out to be pretty funny. But at the time, it wasn't so funny. But he could be very sarcastic. He could get under your skin by making those kinds of comments.
I've heard that from a lot of former players through the years about how Rupp got to him. I was at a gathering a long time ago, and now this is sad. A number of those guys are gone. This is probably 20 years ago. They used to have a luncheon in Georgetown. Former Rupp players would get together, and they invited me one time, and I said, "Can I bring my camera?" Absolutely. And I went around and talked to I think everybody there, just short sound bites, whatever. And it was interesting. I did very little of asking a question. When I asked them the same question to everybody, what do you think about Rupp today? And I got the most fascinating answers. None of them liked him when they played for him. About half said it took 2 or 3 years to stop hating him. And then they started really respecting him, respecting him more when they played. Most of the fellows said even if they didn't like him, they respected him and what he did. And there were a couple of guys, these were guys in their 70s, who said, I still hate him today, which I thought was fascinating, but they all respected him at what he was able to do at Kentucky. I found that fascinating.
You know, I had a high school coach tell me, because I'd gone through several, I played for 3 different high school coaches. And one of them told me, look, when we're yelling at you, don't listen to how we're yelling at you. Listen to what we're saying.
Yep.
And that's what I did with Coach Rupp. Coach Rupp could rip you. But it was what he was saying and what he wanted me to do that I had to take to heart. And that's the way I reacted with him.
You know, it's funny you should say that. When the new players would come in for Patino, the older players would say the same thing to him.
Exactly.
Just listen to the words. Don't listen to the tone of voice, because you go into a shell if you listen to the tone of voice.
Yeah. I think you look at even at today's coaches, there's a lot of them out there. You kind of go, how in the world could these guys ever play for him? You know, I'll bring up Danny Hurley, for example. You look at him and you go, he's crazy. Bobby Knight was crazy. But they had a way of getting to the kids, and the kids responded to those. And that's what's going on today with a lot of these coaches.
What did you think of Bob Knight?
I like Bob. I really did. He really loved Coach Rupp. And he spoke when we had the Glory Road final banquet award ceremony, and Bob came and spoke. I mean, you could just tell how much respect that he had for Coach Rupp and the program that he had built. And I think probably in the back of his mind, he was saying, you know, I can do the same thing at Indiana.
You know the story about the letter he wrote to Rupp?
Probably not. No.
Okay. And I'm going to ask Chip if I'm wrong, but I read this somewhere and somebody else confirmed it forever ago, and I probably should ask Chip before saying this. But when he was the head coach at Army, he wrote a letter, and if I end up being wrong, like 99.9% sure, like 100. He wrote a letter to Rupp that he'd like to be an assistant coach while he was a head coach at Army, because he respected Adolph Rupp so much. He just thought his basketball knowledge would increase, you know, for whatever time period he was he would be under Rupp, and Rupp didn't have a job. But I always thought that was fascinating, and I had heard the same thing too, how much he respected Adolph Rupp.
Oh yeah, I mean, he really did. He did. You know, and you look at other players, or excuse me, coaches like Krzyzewski that came out from under that program. They're the tree that you look down through and look at the coaching tree that some of these coaches have put together. It's amazing.
The pride of Lima, Ohio, finally going into his high school Hall of Fame, two-time first-team All-SEC. Jim Andrews, kind enough to join us. So, is anything happened this season that made you want to pull out your hair?
I wonder when you were going to get to this.
Hey, Jim, how's that for a leading question? I was trying to do it in a nice way. No.
Yeah, and acting like you really don't know. You know, last week, I kind of got up and I looked at the social media from, you know, I don't really participate. It's more something that my wife likes to do. And she'll get comments from me, and then she'll put them on, and people will read it that it's not from her, that they think it's coming from me. But I got up one day and I was looking at this, and we had just lost the kid from out in California that was talking about coming here. I forgot his name already. He's going to USC. But he was interested in Kentucky, and he was interested in Louisville. And I got up, and the kid had made the announcement he was going to go to USC. And this was after about a week-long barrage of negative comments to the players primarily, some towards Pope, but mostly towards the players. You know, get this guy out of here. He shouldn't be playing. And I'm thinking, I'm 18 years old. I've got the world by the butt. I can go where I want to go and do what I want to do. The money's going to be good no matter wherever I go. And I'm reading this stuff and I'm going, why would I ever go to Kentucky? And that was the thing that struck me about how maybe his decision came about. And Louisville's no better. They're trashing their players. But the other thing, and I made a comment and you were asking me about it. I'd read an article that was put out by ESPN, and they were talking about these kids and that are being recruited. And of the 5-star kids, there were only 18 of them that had signed a commitment to major colleges. And that was to 14 different schools. And that was my comment. I think I left out the 5-star part.
You know what? And I didn't figure it out because of that.
Yeah, and I could see that too, and I could see where that would have misled a few people. But my thinking was, well, these kids aren't going anywhere. The other thing is somebody tried to tell me about Rivals being the source for 4- and 5-star recruits. And then so I looked up Rivals and I said, they got 250 of them. I said, there's no way in hell there's 250 4-star kids in the country. No way. Because if they did, and we've had this in the past, they would have affected the programs more than they have. There hasn't been more than 5, maybe 10 kids at the most in any given year the past 10 years that have affected a major college program. It just hasn't happened.
I'm going to be nice to Rivals right now when I should be meaner, but it's the first thing that comes to my head. They have watered down the meaning of 4-star to the point it's obtuse.
They're making money off of it.
Bingo.
That's the reason they're saying and doing what they're wanting. They're getting these people, and I say, folks or whatever you want to call them, that are reading this stuff, and then all of a sudden they become the experts. And I was talking to Jack about it, and he just said that most of the people that are reacting to this stuff on social media have no idea what it takes to build a program. Because if they did, they'd be doing it.
Oh, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. And I think there might be some Louisville fans who chomp on Kentucky kids and vice versa, but I don't think that's the main part. I think what's happened, and sports happens to be part of it, where you can hide behind your keyboard and you have all the power to do whatever. And I think there's a bunch of people who say things that if you ask them really, they would take it back, but they're doing it out of anger. And then there are some people who really are that angry or think that they're, smarter than the coach. There was a guy, and I saw it and I wouldn't play it, who went after Marino that was so I mean, it's the world's nicest kid. Second of all, you're a better judge than me. Duh. What am I judging? I thought he had a wonderful freshman year. How good is he going to be 3 years from now? I do want to ask about Marino for a second. I'm going, the kid's beautiful. He's a wonderful, he's about as good as it gets as a human being. Raised great. Nobody in the world thought he'd be able to play like he played this year. He exceeded everybody's expectation, and watch out for him next year and the year after. I'm going, how could you not see this as a beautiful kid and rip him? And then said something about his mother. I was cursing at my phone.
Yeah.
It's just you know what I think, and I want you to answer. I'm sorry for rambling here, but it's like somebody lost a bet. And he had a bad game. Okay, he had some bad games down the stretch. Maybe he got tired or something. Maybe he was hiding an injury, which wouldn't surprise me because he keep his mouth shut. I don't know. All I know is the kid was wonderful. Kentucky's lucky to have him. He loves Kentucky. And I wonder sometimes how many people who lose a bet then want to take it out on a kid.
Oh, there's no question about it. And I'll throw another one in there, Jasper Johnson. I mean, from what I heard from different reports, he was ripped so much the kid was almost in tears. And his family is really, really upset. But, and this kid, if he goes off and his dad and his uncle get with him, they're former college football players, played at UK, both of them. I mean, they're going to put him on a weight program. He's going to get stronger. He's going to be one heck of a player.
I love his potential. My potential hasn't changed one iota. I wondered by him going to Atlanta, which was a good move because Dennis wanted him to grow up and get away from home. Kid really didn't want to do it, but he said, you need to go to, get away from mom and dad and that kind of stuff, which was smart. But if he was around Dennis and Derek especially, he'd probably be 15 pounds heavier now. But for maturing, growing up, I was standing in the corner for the Kentucky-Florida game, and Jasper came in. I think it was a turnover he had really early, and there was a fan to my left, about 8 rows up, that was so mean to Jasper. I don't think I'm naive. I've been doing this a long time. I couldn't believe what this kid said about Jasper. I'm going, wow.
Yeah, right. And like you say, so many of these people that are making these comments on social media, they don't have the guts to do it to a kid to his face. They don't have the guts to come up to you or to me or anybody else and tell us some of the things that they're saying on social media. It's a place for them to hide and do what they're doing. What I would wish would happen is that, and this is what I've begun doing, is these people are now gone from my Facebook page. At least they cannot come back and make comments like this on my page. And I wish other people would do the same thing. Just begin dropping them. Just get rid of them. Because that's real. And the other thing you look at, when you look at the comments they make and other people and they're responding to it, they've got 1 or 2 people that are commenting on it. If you have somebody who's commenting on how great these kids are playing and how hard they're working and trying to support the program, they get hundreds of responses back positive. So, it's who these people are. They're negative. I have this saying, people get up in the morning, they look in the mirror, they go, I hate you. And then they go off to work. And they destroy everybody else's life for the whole day.
I start my day with meditation, prayer, and gratitude.
You bet.
I'm a slow learner, but that's what I do every day. I've been doing it for years, and it's helped me out a lot.
Yeah, it does. It puts the perspective of what we're doing in our lives in the right place.
You are the perfect person to ask about Marino, what you saw him this year. It's a little difficult, but you're good at this, and I can't imagine you mind me saying it. I want to know your crystal ball for the kid, because I got to tell you the truth. I think this kid in a couple of years is going to be 3. I'm going to shut up after this. I'm actually going to turn my mic off, not to interrupt you, because
don't do that.
No, this won't be the first time I've done it. Jim, I have a big mouth. I talk too much. I don't know if you know that. I can see this kid being a really good 3-point shooter down the road. I think this kid's game is just he's like a flower, but it's just a bud. And it's it hasn't blossomed yet. It's just opening up slightly. I think this kid's potential is beautiful. Now I'm shutting up. Jim Andrews, former great center for Kentucky. Please, what say you?
I say the same thing. I see a lot of similarity in him where he is as a freshman and where I was when I was a sophomore. And there were things that I needed to do strength-wise fundamental wise. And I think that the right people will get him off to the side and say, these are the things that you need to work on. Coach Rupp did something to me. He recognized my hands were a little soft when I came in, and I had trouble like holding on to the ball. Marino's the same way. Coach Rupp gave me 2 tennis balls, and he said, I want you to put one in each pocket, and I want you to walk around campus all day squeezing those things until you get your strength built up. It was the best thing I ever did. I developed my hand strength. And the other thing that Marino needs to do is the same thing, develop his strength. If he put on 10 or 15 pounds of muscle, I can't imagine what he would be like. He would be amazing. Those times when he's bringing the ball down below his waist, that's a fundamental. He needs to keep the ball up around his chest. Little things like that he will work on over the next, this next year, this summer. I know he will. Whether he stays at Kentucky or not, I can't answer that question. I know right now a lot of these kids, their heads are hanging. And they're hanging just because of the abuse that very few people have given them.
That's sad.
Very sad. It's very sad. I don't understand how people can call themselves Kentucky fans. You got to be there to support. Lose a ball game. We lost some ball games. I'll be the first to tell you, we lost some ball games this year. That is, I couldn't believe it. But at the same time, I go back and I look, well, we were messing with the lineup all year. We'd have Jalen Lowe in, Jalen Lowe out. We were changing with the lineups all the time, trying to look at what was going to work. Who was going to be the point guard? Thank goodness Denzel came out of the shell and took over and said, I'll be the leader of this team. I mean, he was looking for the leader early on in the team, couldn't find one. And finally, Denzel steps up and does it. Tried to put Jasper in that spot a couple of times. He's not a point guard. He's a 2 guard. And he puts on another 10 or 15 pounds. He's going to be one heck of a 2 guard.
And
he can somebody. I hope he stays with us.
And he can put the ball in the hole too.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's fearless that way. And when did this ever affect you? I'm sorry for stepping on you, Jim. Did this ever affect you? He had said this, and I've heard this through the years from players I've talked to and that kind of stuff. And I'm not ripping Pope or Calby. I'm just not. I promise you. Every coach is a little different. There are certain for example, Owe can make a mistake, and you're not taking him out. You let him play through it. There's different levels where players are allowed to play through stuff. One of the comments that Jasper made was one of his good games, and I'm sorry I don't remember, but one of his comments after was he said, I was allowed to play through mistakes. And I've always thought, in talking to guys like you for like 50 years, you learn a couple things, that until you get to the point where you can't be uptight about making a mistake, because if you make that one mistake, whoever the coach is, this is not a shot against anybody in Kentucky, you're going to get your fanny yanked. You can't be yourself on the court. One, do you agree? And two, can you see Jasper when he can get to the point where he doesn't want to make a mistake? Let's not get silly here. But when he knows I make a mistake, I don't have to yank my head to see if I'm being taken out. He'll be a totally different player.
Yeah, I do. But getting back to what these coaches, when they jerk players, if you tell a kid, here's what I want you to do, and here's what I don't want you to do, and you go in and do I don't want you to do this, it's going to get you jerked. If he goes in and tells the kid, I want you to go in and get rebounds, and he does anything but that, what's the point of him being on the floor? You got to take that kid out. And I don't know when or how, but I've seen coaches over the years. Pitino was famous for that. He would jerk a player in a heartbeat because he didn't get done what he asked him to do. And I would think, Pope being somewhat of a Pitino disciple, that probably has done and will do the same things. And he needs to. The other thing is, some of these people were yelling at, take these guys out. Why are you playing him? And I'm going, that's fine. Who are you going to put in? Who's coming off the bench to replace this kid? For example, if you wanted to pull Owe out of a game for making a mistake, who would you replace him with? You got to ask yourself the simple fundamental questions about little issues about substitutions and mistakes and that sort of stuff was going on, and look at your bench and like, who was he going to bring in? Not many of them that you could have.
Right. And, it reminds me what I used to complain about Vitale, and Vitale has done great things for college basketball. We all know that. But his shtick for years was, when there's 64 teams, this team should have got in, this team should have got in, they got screwed or whatever. And my comment initially was the same forever. Okay, who are you taking out? If so-and-so deserved, but he would never say who should be pulled. And then he stopped doing it after a number of years because I think somebody got to him and said, and he didn't want to say, I think he knew in his mind who he thought shouldn't get in, but he didn't want to say the school because then they would hate him and his Q rating would go down and people wouldn't like him. A little disingenuous, but I'm not passing judgment. It just is. If you say one, you got to say the other. My mistake is I would say both and get in trouble because I'm not very smart being no filter. But it's what you're saying too. Okay, OA made a mistake. Great. Who are we going to put in? Oh, maybe we should leave him in there.
Yeah, right. And that's what you should do. And there are some players that can't play with other players. So you substitute some pairs or threes. Patino probably invented the idea of platoon type substitutions, of putting in 2 and 3 guys at a time, because he realized those guys play well with each other and some people don't.
You concerned about the future of Kentucky basketball?
Not 1 minute. Not at all. I think that we're going to be we're Kentucky number one, and there's a lot of pride. Mark does a great job of letting the kids know what that is. You looked at the the Madness early game, and the things he brings us in, and he brings in the history, and he talks about it all the time. I'm not the least worried about where he's going to take our program.
Coming from you, that means a lot. And the veracity and strength you said that was done with passion and from your heart.
And it's not just because Mark's a nice guy. Yeah, he's a heck of a nice guy. But go to his practice one time. He's pretty salty with those kids. And if you think that that's not going on during game time too, you're wrong. And I think he exposed himself in one game when, a couple of times he called BS on a couple of refs, and it cost him a technical. I think it cost him $25,000 too, if I remember right.
I think it was a lot saltier this year than last year.
No question. No question about it.
That's not a shot. I actually thought it was funny to say, I have this role. And then I think he eventually woke up and said, no, I'm the coach. Here's what I think. Blah, 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 blah. Last one. This is a popular opinion that I happen to agree with 100%, and I've talked about it a lot. This is not a shot against Mark Pope. Promise. You know me better than that. Sit there. But when you take Kentucky and North Carolina, if you have $10 million right now, and I bet someday it's going to be 15, but Pitino says the minimum is 10. We're going with that. And you have money. You can be a have-not with a good coach and become a have. And I think, and I believe this, it's going to be more difficult for the Blue Bloods to remain Blue Bloods. Pitino, I'm sure you saw the soundbite. I played it. Pitino says there are no Blue Bloods anymore. I think it makes the Kentucky job tougher. Has nothing to do with Mark Pope. It has nothing to do with Hubert Davis getting fired at North Carolina. I promise you, it has nothing. And because of that, if these programs, it's still Kentucky, but if it slips a little bit, it's going to put more pressure on Pope, who's the coach, and more pressure on these kids that they don't need. Agree, disagree, thought process.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in what you're saying. The other thing is there's a lot of luck with this. Who would have thought that we'd had 3 guys that you would have thought would have been your starters sitting on the bench because of injuries? And those are the things, little things like that are going to happen that you don't have any control over. A lot of it is we don't even know. I mean, Saban said a few years ago, one of the reasons he got out of coaching, because he had a kid come to him and he said he wanted like $3 million or something like that. And Saban looked at him and said, I don't even know if you can play football. I think you need to go find another school. I think once coaches begin doing some of that, pushing back on some of these kids, especially the high school kids, you and I both agree that there's not 250 4-star kids in this country. They're just not.
There's an 125.
Yeah, and there's probably not 5 kids worth more than $1 million or $2 million for that matter. There's not that many boozers out there. There's just not that many A-cuffs. There's just not that many of those kids out there. So you're going to have to begin to look at how you're spending your money. The other thing they're talking about getting the government involved in this deal. And I'm going, boy, the last thing we know. I remember Ronald Reagan saying, "Here, I'm the government and I'm here to help you." That's the last thing college needs, is to have some kind of federal regulation on what's going on. Let the thing work itself out. It will. It's going to begin to work out. Some genius is going to come up and say, "Here's how we need to do it in going forward." And once those things begin to fall in place, the NCAA right now is just an absolute moot point. They have no enforcement abilities. They don't know where to move. They're scared to death of the liability that somebody's going to sue them. And these kinds of things again, those things are going to pass given some time, and it's going to begin to work itself out.
I got 2 words for you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. I appreciate you tremendously. And people, we're going to play the clip. People should listen to what Jim says about Marino. There's nobody within the sound of my voice anywhere in this country can give a better opinion about Marino than him. By the way, is he taller than you?
No. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He's much bigger than me. Yeah.
No, taller. Is he taller than you?
Yeah, he's taller.
Wait a second. You were listed as 6'11".
Yeah, and I think he's a 7-footer, 7'1", isn't he? I think, look it up. I think he's a 7-footer.
Yeah, I have this thing. I don't believe heights. Okay. When a kid is 6 feet, I automatically say 5'10".
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he's taller than you. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's put it this way. The people that have been complaining about him would dream about becoming his agent.
Well, I said, all these kids that they're looking at, portal and otherwise, they all got agents.
Yes, they do.
And that's making things even more difficult. I mean, it's like the kid in California gets up, he says, "Mom, Dad, should I go to Kentucky?" I don't know. The agent calls, "Don't go to Kentucky." It's terrible. I just believe those conversations are happening in the background.
That's sad. That's really sad. By the way, Jimmy just looked it up. He's listed as 7 feet and 250.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, bless you, man. Thanks for your time. Maybe this summer, once I can pull you off the golf course when you're not playing, and great some time.
Yep, love to do it.
Hey, say hi to your better half.
I will. I'll do that.
A number of months ago in Costco, it was a lovely conversation, and I remember it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Yep, love you, buddy.
Back at you, brother. Love you too. He's one of the nicest. Seriously, it's funny. He comes across to me like a gentle giant. Right. On the other hand, if you look at some old footage of him, he didn't play gentle. He was strong and tough. And here's the other thing, fundamentally sound. Here's the other thing he said that I loved. And it's going to be the clip of the day, and we're saving another clip. He talked about how his hands weren't that good early on either. I got to tell you, when he was a junior, ain't nobody going to say his hands weren't good. And it's all these newfangled things about weights and stuff like that. Rupp said, take 2 tennis balls, squeeze them. Put your hands in your pocket, squeeze them. It's an isometric. So, they knew how to do stuff back then too.
Sometimes you just keep it simple with a lot, even with weights. Like, yeah, you can use weights, but you don't have to have all of these complicated workouts and regimens and this and that. You can, but just the base layer, you don't need it. Like you said, get tennis balls, get the hand squeezers, put your hand in a bucket of rice.
Yeah.
Like,
I keep on saying the Japanese are ahead of America when it comes to training of their baseball players. They don't lift weights. They do all these body movements, stuff like that. And you know what? They seem to have fewer injuries. Why doesn't American baseball copy them? Anyway, I'm late. Good stuff. Isn't Jim great?
Awesome.
He's just, and by the way, just the way he is. His wife is lovely too. I mean, they're a darling couple, and the friends that he has is off the charts. Tommy Heights in the hopper coming up next. Don't forget about my friend Terry Page. Terry Page. Not a very good. You hear me say, hey? Great. Licensed massage therapist. 820 Porter Place, Thursday and Friday in Lexington. It's Suite 3 off Versailles Road. Go to the end of the road. Go on the side of the parking lot. The door is right there. She is a healer. It's amazing what she has done with her knowledge of the body. She's been studying it for a quarter century, and she's way ahead of all kinds of things naturally. Check her out. Please use my name, 859-373-0578. You know, I always say she should never have a spot and an appointment. Somebody, I don't know if he wants me to say his name, who went to see Terry from the radio show. He says he does the same thing I do. He tells people they need to go see Terry Page because she healed him. It's a pretty simple deal. She's great. Terry Page, 859-373-0578. Tommy Heights coming up next. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5 FM.
No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler, brought to you by Quantrell Auto Group. QuantrellForLife.com.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler. Have a no filter comment? Hit the text line, 859-381-1313. 859-381-1313. Hi, this is Alan Cutler. Driving should feel personal, protected, centered, completely at ease the moment you pull onto the road. That's the Volvo difference. Thoughtful design, quiet confidence, and safety always working in the background so you can simply breathe and drive. We love our VC60. Plus, the luxury of Volvo is often more within reach than expected. That's why Volvo deserves your first look. At Quantrell Volvo, Brentley and Mark, friends of mine, they have built a dealership that's calm, respectful, and genuinely helpful. Right now, get 0.99%. That's 0.99% APR for 36 months on most 2026 models. See dealer for details. Visit QuantrellVolvo.com today.
Hey, I'm Dale Wise. I've just recently retired. I know that the electronics, if you don't keep up with it, it can get away from you and get real confusing. Republic Bank's app, I use their app, and it is so easy to use. I log in with my fingerprint, so it's super easy. I don't have to remember 50 million different passwords and all that stuff. And it lays it out just real nice.
That's Dale's story. Now let's get to work on yours. Republic Bank. Time to thrive. Member FDIC. Data rates may apply.
Back to No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler. Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, and Google, Monday through Friday.
Welcome back. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5 FM. I know Tommy Heights knows Jim Andrews really well. He's announced to us, he just found out he's going into in Lima, Ohio, his Hall of Fame. Only took 55 years. And I said, Jim, what'd you average? He said 36 points a game. And they were undefeated. I think he should have been in a long time ago. You know, Jim, he's a great guy, two-time All-SEC first team, and he is super, super high on Marino. He's a big man, too, Tommy. I don't know who's taller, you or Jim, not that it matters, but you're 6'10", 6'11", what?
6'9". Jim is taller than me.
Oh, but your brother Mike is taller than you.
Yes.
Does he point that out to you? Or he just
No, it's just all part of it. I just have trauma from being only the fourth tallest in my family and being called shorty, so I have height, issues.
I knew about being the fourth tallest because you told me that before. I never knew they called you shorty.
No, I'm just making that up. It's just, it's just funny because everybody will, can I ask you a question? Like, yeah, okay. 5'11", yes, and 5'3". And those are answers to three questions. How tall are you? Did you play basketball? How tall is your wife? So.
Sounds normal. Watching Kentucky this year, how happy were you? How sad were you? How angry were you? What do you think?
I'm disappointed in the players and their attitudes. Of course, we had a point guard that wasn't there, hurt. The big guy was hurt. Right off the bat, that just puts you at a disadvantage. But the other players just didn't seem to come up. Other than Owe and Moreno, I liked what they did. And sometimes, flashes of brilliance from the other players. But there wasn't a heart. There wasn't a soul. And you could get on Pope, and he can take some of the blame for that. But I think it was a blank checkbook that any one of us would have done, went out and buy the best players, and you didn't get the return on investment. So where last year you had players that were wanting to be here and their effort showed. And I liked the team last year much better than this one, even though this one was more costly and potentially more talented.
You worried about the future of Kentucky basketball?
No, It's like, I'll give you three scenarios. They talk about Matt Painter at Purdue. Good guy, good coach, can't win the big game, but you know what? He's done really well. He's got 500 wins. You know, get over it. Duke, our favorite team to hate, John Shire, still doing a good job, but the problem with freshmen, and it was proven the other night, other than UConn, their freshmen made the three-pointer, is sometimes it's tough to win with freshmen. But overall, he does a good job. People at Duke can get over it. And at Kentucky, this is Pope's third year. Okay, you have a honeymoon year. You have a second year. Things didn't go as well. Not totally his fault or the staff. So let him do it again. Any type of great leader or success has iterations and mistakes. And in this culture of our world today, it's like you look for the first thing that goes bad, then you start to generalize it across the spectrum. That's what I don't like. And you know what? Most of the fans understand. It's just always that subset of fans that permeates in all different sports that they know better, they're upset or whatever. But personally, no, I'm not upset. I'm patient.
Tom Heights, 6'11", backup center for Joe B. Hall. Play behind guys like Turpin and Bowie, two of the all-time greats. Tough guy. I wouldn't want him to set a pick on me. Let's put it that way. You want to defend Coach Pope. You sent me a text that you want to defend Pope.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Again, what happened is it's just like investing. You can get the most popular stock and it can be the worst one. And again, when you have access to funds, you go out and buy the best players. Usually you think that works. Okay, my feeling is, and I don't know Pope's thinking on this, you go buy the best players. That we had the highest payroll, allegedly. It didn't work. But again, you have to say, if you have taken out your point guard and your best potential big man, I mean, that puts you behind the eight ball. Is that bad coaching? Some could say, well, look what Iowa State did to us when they had their best player was out and then they just took us down hard. Yeah, there's a room for an argument there, but still, you have the issue of NIL. You've got different attitudes of players. Coaches are having to adapt fast, and some will adapt faster than others. And, let's just, third time's a charm. Let's see what happens next year. But I'm not out there on hey, we need to start looking for the next coach because this is difficult.
What do you think of Marino? I love his potential. I think he's scratching the surface. He did better than I thought. He still needs to get stronger. He will. But I love his potential. What do you say?
Oh, absolutely. He's a shining star of a young player that we happen to have in our backyard, and he's playing for Kentucky. So that's a good thing. So I just hope that, there's nothing crazy out there of some NIL that tries to pluck him away. But that's a reality now in this day and age. I don't think that'll happen, but, you never know.
One, you never know. You're right. Two, I have believed for quite a while he is going to get some tremendous offers, and I think Kentucky's going to have to pay him a lot more money to keep him. I think the kid really wants to be here, but I'm not talking about Marino now, okay? So there's no hidden message, but let me throw this at you. Let's say you liked a particular school, like Kentucky, and in the NIL world, and because you were backup, let's say they offered you $500,000. But there's a lot of schools where Tom Heights would have been the starting center and been a hell of a player. We've talked about this. There's no question about it. You turn down all kinds of offers and that kind of stuff. There's tons of colleges where you would average double figures and close to double-figure rebounds a game. Now, suppose another school, hypothetically, of course, says, okay, you're in today's NIL. Well, they're going to pay $500,000 as a backup because who's going to beat out Bowie and Turpin? But you're very valuable, and somebody offers you $2.5 million. Would you take the $2.5 million?
Yeah, it's funny because Jim Master and I talked about this. It'd be very difficult to turn that down. I mean, and that to me is what perverts the sport right now, or I should say the college athletics. I'm all about capitalism, players getting paid, but there's no salary cap, and it's just, I don't know, it's out of control. But again, I'm for the players getting paid. But when you have the NCAA, which is a criminal organization in my way of thinking, then that's what you're going to get. So it's just kind of like, let the criminal organization, they've done this, they've run amok. So that's what we're going to have. But yeah, getting back to that, yeah, it would be hard to, turn something like that down. And that's a terrible way to think, because then that's price, in lieu of value, price wins, so to speak, in the sales game. That's a terrible way to, make decisions, but that's where we're at right now.
And by the way, there are a lot of players who've taken less money to stay at their school. Ty Bryant took less money to stay here. Jasper could have made more money at some other schools. There are players in a lot of places, but it's different if it's X and it's like, why? And why? I can see Marino being one of the more sought after players in the country, because I think a lot of coaches are smart and they say this young man could be really special next year. And if you can get him on a 2-year contract or until he goes to the NBA, I think his potential is all world.
Well, yeah, don't think that Pope and his staff aren't going shopping and looking to, for lack of a better word, poach. Every university is doing that now. And again, that's what the criminal organization has set up that fosters that. And it's just, I don't know, it's disgusting to me. Again, if you had some type of compensation system where you'd put it into a pool where you'd have some deferred comp or something like that, maybe that would be a better thing. But this is almost like legalized gambling in a way, because you're just allowing universities to gamble and just go out there and just buy players. And it's just, I don't know, it's perverted the system. And again, I'm not a socialist or a communist, I'm a capitalist, but it's a terrible setup the way it is.
Well, in the NFL draft, you're gambling that the first round draft choice will play up to that level. Some do, many don't.
Yeah. I know, but they have a draft. You just can't pick anybody. You have to go in an order. There's some kind of system. This is nothing. This is unregulated free agency every year.
Well, there's 365 days a year. Tom Heights, former backup center for Kentucky. And I say it's not 365 days a year. I say it's 363. Thanksgiving and Christmas. I'd like to think nobody's contacting these kids. I can tell you, I know this. There are kids, not just at Kentucky, but other places, who have not put their name in the portal, who received offers weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks ago already. Anybody can just say I'm crazy. This stuff I know. So there are people getting contact while they play for a team. This stuff is just, it's crazy what's going on.
You're not even talking to the players. You're talking to their agent, from what I understand and my sources. It's like
there's some talking to players, not many. Most to a parent or an agent. But I have heard of some cases. What percentage, Tom? I have no idea. Not going to guess. Don't have enough information. There are some contact with players, but most find out who the agent is and go from there. I'm going to switch on purpose with you, because do you want to – this is your call, because I'm kind of funny. Text is a text, and I want to make sure you're okay talking about it. If you don't want to, it's all good by me. You want to talk about what you said about the WNBA, or you want to leave it alone?
Oh, yeah, I'll talk about it. I'm older. My filter goes down, so it's good for media.
Okay, so I'm not going to read this. Your thoughts we have about 2 minutes. What do you think of the WNBA? And folks, this is unbelievably strong. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I said it's a heterophobic and a racist league, and that's my opinion, okay? And you have a player that's a generational player like Caitlin Clark come in. She is a straight player, a heterosexual. She's white, and you've never seen anything like this before. So the combination of that is just a firestorm. We're in, like, let's say the NBA, where you have Cooper Flag and Kanan Kipple come in. They're white players. There's no issue with that. Or you had like Tiger Woods coming into golf. There was no issue with that, And you want to watch this, and then they talk about the Fever fans being racist and all that, which, by the way, there's tons of black female and black male fans of Caitlin Clark. And I don't understand where that league is, where it's at today, other than now they've got somebody that's, the rising tide raises all boats. It's just disgusting because the only reason I tune in to watch that, and I tried to watch the games yesterday, the NCAA games, it's like watching it's not fun to watch. That's just my personal opinion, not shared by a minority, but the majority would share my opinion.
Sorry for stepping on you, Tom. You're saying you don't like the quality of basketball the women have in college?
It's after watching the men, no. I mean, sometimes it's good, but I don't know. It's just my thing. It's just, I'm not watching, golf. I don't enjoy golf unless Tiger was playing, I mean, but golf is a popular sport. I don't like watching women's tennis now that Serena Williams isn't playing. So that's just my personal subjective opinion.
I got you. Tom, as always, I appreciate it. Couple weeks down the road, when you're not traveling or something, love to have you back when the roster is reconstructed to give your opinions on that.
Yeah, it's almost like what do you call it? A Scrabble. You're just picking your tiles and they'll see what you have, and you got to try to make some words and win the game. That's what I call it.
That's what it is. They're trying to be organized, but it's still some dart throwing on the board. You might want one guy, you can't get it, you get somebody else. He doesn't exactly fit with somebody else, but you got to have another player. He's good, and then you got to figure it out, right?
Yeah, let's just get a couple Duke players or maybe North Carolina players and just really go for it. If we're going to be in this atmosphere, just take all of them,
Okay. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, that's your crotchety guess for today. I'm getting older. I'm getting just more, I don't know, agitated.
No. Guests could give their opinions. This is not for me to say agree with me. No, that's not how this show works, and you know that anyway. Thank you,
That's
Tom.
right.
Be good,
My
brother.
pleasure, Alan. All right. Bye now.
Jimmy, strong. Yes?
Yes. Very strong.
Were you surprised?
No, actually.
Because he's been on the show before.
Yeah. And just his general opinion, I've seen that before. That's not a shocking statement.
He was always like that when he played, but because he was a backup, I don't know if anybody else interviewed him as much as I did, just because he was a good soundbite, and I liked him. But he was a good soundbite. But did I interview him as much as did like Bowie? Of course not. When Bowie was playing, no, not even close. But he's always been a thoughtful, free thinker. It's just always the way he's been. Okay, here's the deal. I think it's 17 times or something like that where I'm getting kicked off for Reds baseball. It's happened every year I've done the show. Apparently, it's been going on way before me as we carry Reds baseball. And by the way, their start is great. We started the show talking about Reds and all kind of stuff. So no show tomorrow. I will be back on Thursday. So no show tomorrow. And it's going to be weird having a day off in the middle of the week. And you're on, aren't you? Or you're not sure if you're on?
Tomorrow, I believe we are on, but Friday, we are not on. Wildcat Drive will not be because of Reds baseball.
I got you. Coming up at 4 o'clock, what do you have?
Wildcat Drive with Matthew and Jimmy.
Want to say a huge thanks to my guests. This was a very interesting day. Kenny Rice, bless your brother. Brandon Ramsey, bless your brother. Jim Andrews, bless your brother. Tom Heights did. Oh, bless your brother. Would you say the opinions today were especially unique and good?
Yes, I would say so. It was a very no-filtery show.
Yeah, I like no-filtery show. I wonder why I named it that way. Brad Taylor coming up next. Jimmy, have a great show with Matthew at 4 o'clock. I'll be back Thursday. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5.